Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It is August 26th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And for the most part, today was just a range day. We did close up. Notice that we trended up strongly during the overnight session, and then really from that point on, we just went sideways. We never got outside the overnight highs again. This little pullback here, notice where it came back to. You can see the brown line across there. We came back and filled that overnight gap there, and we basically filled it almost to the tick, and then we bounced and went up from there. And so that's what this pullback was. Prices coming back to fill the gap. Here's where we opened today. Down here's where we closed Friday. So on the daily chart is where it turns from blue to white. And so you won't have this particular piece during the overnight. So when we close here Friday and open here today, then there's a gap between that point and here. And we did come back and fill that before we bounce. And that's pretty common. Doesn't come back 100% the same day, but usually it does. So, but really we spent the entire day trading inside these two blue lines. We got outside just a little bit before the close, but the rest of the trading day, really for our trading from 8:30 to 2, everything was inside those two blue lines for the most part. So, I mean, there's a tick or two outside on both sides here, but it's a range day. It did have an upward bias. Early on, we had a little bit of a downward bias, but once we bottomed out here and filled that gap, it was somewhat of an upward bias the rest of the day. So, and if you look at the really big picture, we traded up into this little trading range, so that gives you continues to give you an upward bias. But you can't ignore the fact that we traded down from, say, 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock. I mean, during that time, that's kind of a downward bias. So even though the big picture still is pointing up. So that gets tough for some people because they're just looking at what's going on here and they're not looking at the bigger picture. And doesn't matter. You need to know that we're kind of got a downward bias right here. But at the same time, you still need to be able to look at the bigger picture and say, hey, we traded up into this, and this may just be a correction, and we may continue trending higher again at some point like we did there. So let me back out. We'll talk about the trades. I didn't mean to zoom out that far there, or zoom in that far, but it moved pretty quickly on me there. I'm sorry. Might have been a little bit too much for their eyes there when I zoomed out real quick. But anyway, 7 o'clock hour came during this little drop. And then we had this bounce right here. I mean, look how many times we bounced down here, and we just had another one. Generally, you want to wait for a higher low, but there's a double test here. Actually, there's a multiple test there. It's way past double test, and it's a nice bullish bar. So you may want to take that trade. I like that trade. Again, you're better off to wait on the higher low, which comes right here. But that's a very neutral signal bar, a little bit of overlap. Or congestion, so I'd wait. And we do get the reversal pattern here. Again, you need to think about this one just a little bit because we just turned down here where we've but notice how we made this high, then this one's a little higher, and this one's a little higher. So if we bounce here, there's a good chance we could go higher. So I still like that as a failed second entry short. Notice that new low, and you got a first entry, you got your second leg up in the second entry. Bounces right off the EMA, gives you a nice bullish bar that closes on its high. I like going long there. Quick, easy scalp, but that's all you can get out of it. And then you get a failed second entry long, but look at that congestion. I'm not crazy. Everything's still above the EMA. There's a chance you could trade down there and turn back up again, just like you turned up here. So, but it did go break higher first and then turn and go out the other side. So it's a little bit of a trap. Probably trap some people trying to get long up here into the highs. But you may take that trade. It's a little bit aggressive. because of the reasons I just stated. There's congestion. You could get whipsawed here. If this is a range we've gone into, we just came off the highs, so there's a good chance we could go to the lows now. So all things to think about. Um, but you may take that one. It does kind of confirm that trend line as well. You get a break here and a second entry short. Notice that low, first entry, second entry, and that's a nice little small bearish bar. Quick, easy scalp. We come back, and this finally confirms that trend line. Actually, you might have looked at this as a break because you might have drawn it a little bit steeper earlier, and then if so, this looks more like a break. But I adjusted it because you couldn't make it fit the midline up here and fit down here too, unless you drew it a little flatter, like I did, or like I've done here. So, but either way, it's still at the key entry point, even if it's slightly outside. And you could look at this as two legs back. Bearish bar. I like going short there. You actually would have gone short below this bar, but your stop still has to go up here. Comes back and gives you a lower high, but now you're right into all this support, and I just don't think you want to go short there. Notice that you get a little bounce here that turns down quickly. That's like a little breakout pullback short. I don't think I would take that trade. I marked it. I mean, notice that eye, and you get a you really get a first entry, second entry, but it looks like we're going to bounce here and then it turns down. So if it breaks lower there, we're probably going to go lower. I marked it green. It's a little aggressive. I think you're better off to skip it because you're really trying to get short into this support. And we know what usually happens. It usually fails and comes back. So I didn't mark this one because it looks a little congested, but that's a possibility as well. Probably should at least marked it green. You're still a little away from the EMA. You're probably going to come back and test this breakout area as well. And this is a higher low. Notice you make that low and you try to turn down and it turns back up. There's a failed second entry short here, but it's, we're still below the EMA. We're still below the original support line. So I don't think you want to enter there. And we're not back to the key entry point here, and that's definitely congestion, so I don't think you want to go short. It's a shame because you miss a really good entry here. There's a little breakout pullback short right here. That is at a key entry point, but I'm not crazy. That's another one you could say is, you could argue for it to be green, but I'm not crazy about it. I think you're better off just to watch that one because you've really already missed a lot of the move. It does push on down and come back and give you a failed second entry long here, but you just bounced off that low. Again, this one did go higher and then turn and go lower. So if you've got enough room to get out of here, which you do on my chart, that's another one you could argue for green. There's a bunch of green ones in here that I didn't mark today just because they're a little bit too aggressive. And if you're going to take an aggressive one, this is the kind you take where you're way away from the EMA here and you get this little failed break lower. Again, I didn't mark it, but if you're going to be aggressive, that's the one to be aggressive with because you may catch an important low for the day, which guess what? That was the low for the day after that point. That was a very important low, and that's why I like those trades and like being a little more aggressive there. But I'd want to wait on a higher low. We get one here. Not a very good setup. And then you finally get a failed second entry short here with a nice green bar. And we did just come off the midline, so we're probably headed back up to the trend line. So you may take that one. Plus there's a double test. Notice it make that low. You test it once, you test it twice. Nice bearish bar, closes on its very high. There's actually a reversal pattern, but you're getting too close to the trend line now. A lot of resistance across there too. Runs up. There's a second entry long here, but not a very good signal bar. Then you try to go short once, you try to go short twice, you get a failed second entry short that breaks lower first. If it breaks above here, it's probably going to shoot up, and you could see how quickly that thing shot up. It did back up a little bit, but that was a nice trap, and people had to exit, and that's why you got such a big bar right there. Then we turn down, and you got one leg back, a little correction there, and then a second leg back. That's two measured legs back to a trend line. I don't like that one. There is a higher low here, but right into the EMA. Don't really like it either. But here you get your reversal. Looks a little better, and you're back inside the little congestion area, so you got enough room to get out. That's a good setup. It does pull back here and test the original support line, and it actually closes outside of it here. So that's another one you may take. And if it breaks higher, it's probably going to trap a lot of people, and you can see that it probably did by how quick and fast it runs up again before it runs into resistance. We're back up to all this resistance across here, the dotted blue line. You can see that. I don't like going short here. There's not a really good signal bar there. There's a lower high here right into the trend line, but it does push through and pull back and give you a failed second entry long and another bearish bar. You may take that one, hoping that things are going to reverse and turn back down here, and this is just a range day. It didn't break higher here, and it gives you a big bearish bar. So I don't really like going short below that one, but when it pulls back here and turns down again right off that key entry point, it actually goes higher first. I like going short there, and you really could have argued for that one, but it's 2-bar matching high, and it closes on its low. That's still part. This is really your original signal bar, and the fact that it didn't break higher there just makes that one too iffy. But it breaks higher here. And so that's technically your lower high, and that's the reason I like that one and not really that one. And now you're confirming that trend line too. Drops on down, and you kind of you're getting away from the EMA, getting a little congestive, a lot of dojis and things in there and stems. And then notice that new low, then a first entry and a second entry that fails. Big bullish bar. You're probably going to trap people again. That's going in the 2 o'clock hour. I almost made that one green, but you can see we had some support and resistance right along there. And then you make a double bottom that's even higher with a trap there in that reversal. And you can tell it trapped people by how quick it bounced again, just like it did over here. And like it did when it fell lower over here. So that's what I saw today. Just a range day. The ones in the middle are the ones you got to be careful of, but this was a trend that was working higher, and so you could play the higher lows off the trend line, or even a good second entry off the trend line. So, I mean, that's the thing, but you do need to be careful when you're playing a range day. But if you look at the big picture, we had an upward bias too. So that's the reason I like these, even though this is somewhat in the middle of the range here. You'd had support here earlier, and it was just coming back in again right across here. You can see that. Back out a little bit. But you can see that support across there. So not a bad trading day. There's enough room in here with these trends that you could trade it down, then trade it back up. And it looked like we were going to be able to trade it back down, but really you just finally get a close outside, it tests this low, and then it runs to a new high. So now this two-tiered channel's had a break and a new high, and it didn't do much late in the afternoon, it just kind of went sideways. So that's what I saw today, and not much else we can say about it. So nothing really out of the ordinary today. Just kind of a standard trading day in which the market didn't really sell off. We did correct a little bit and fill a gap, but I think that was the only reason we were pulling back to fill that gap. And then we kind of trended up the rest of the day. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.